His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa yesterday received at Sakhir Palace their Majesties and Highnesses, leaders of the GCC member states and their representatives on the occasion of their participation in the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council hosted by the Kingdom of Bahrain. Upon their arrival at the venue of the Bahrain Summit, His Majesty the King welcomed Qatar's Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman bin Jassim Al Thani. UAE Vice President Deputy Prime Minister His Highness Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq of Oman. The Emir of Kuwait, His Highness Sheikh Mish'al Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah. And the Saudi Crown Prince and Prime Minister, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. His Majesty welcomed their Majesties and Highnesses in Bahrain, wishing them a pleasant stay and expressing gratitude and appreciation for their attendance and acceptance of the invitation to participate in this important Gulf Summit. His Majesty wished the summit success to boost the GCC's joint action to achieve its objectives towards greater solidarity, cooperation, coordination and integration among the GCC states, as well as to meet the aspirations of their brotherly people for further development, progress and prosperity. For their part, their Majesties and Highnesses conveyed their thanks and appreciation to His Majesty for the warm reception and generous hospitality, wishing the summit success under His Majesty's leadership. A formal group photograph was then taken, after which His Majesty the King, the GCC leaders and their representatives then proceeded to the main summit hall, where they were greeted by students from Bahrain's Ministry of Education schools, followed by a traditional Bahraini Arda performance held on the occasion. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa yesterday chaired the opening session of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council Bahrain Summit held at Al Sakhir Palace in the presence of their Majesties and Highnesses, the GCC leaders and their representatives, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa and the GCC Secretary General.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها. كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون. ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون. ولا تكونوا كالذين تفرقوا واختلفوا من بعد ما جاءهم البينات وأولئك لهم عذاب عظيم. صدق الله العظيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب الجلالة والسمو، الحضور الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسعدنا أن نرحب بكم أطيب ترحيب بين أهلكم وإخوانكم في مملكة البحرين، معربين عن بالغ اعتزازنا باستضافة هذه القمة المباركة التي نجدد من خلالها حرصنا على مواصلة المسيرة العريقة للعمل الخليجي المشترك المستمد قوتها من وشائج الأخوة والقربى والمتسلحة بوحدة الهدف والمصير. ويطيب لنا أن نتوجه بخالص الشكر والتقدير لأخينا العزيز صاحب السمو الشيخ مشعل الأحمد الجابر الصباح أمير دولة الكويت الشقيقة على قيادته الرشيدة للدورة السابقة وما حققته من نتائج مثمرة أسهمت في خدمة المصالح العليا لمجلس التعاون وتلبية تطلعات شعوبه. أصحاب الجلالة والسمو، عند تأمل مسيرة هذا الصرح الخليجي الشامخ الذي بدأه الآباء المؤسسون بكل إخلاص ومحبة، يتأكد لنا صواب توجهاته نحو ضرورات التكامل والاندماج بما يتناسب مع ثقله الاستراتيجي ويظهر مكانته كقوة فاعلة ومؤثرة في السياسة الإقليمية والدولية، كما ورد في النظام الأساسي لهذا المجلس العزيز على الجميع. ولقد أثبتت التجربة العملية صدق هذا الواقع، إذ تمكنا بفضل الله ثم بفضل التزام دولنا وجدية عمل المجلس من صياغة نموذج تنموي متكامل الأركان يجمع بين القدرة على المنافسة العالمية وتأمين أعلى درجات الاستقرار والازدهار. ولم يكن بالإمكان تحقيق هذه المكتسبات لولا الرؤية المشتركة والسياسات الموحدة التي جعلت من أولوياتها إرساء الأمن الخليجي والحفاظ على السيادة الوطنية واحترام مبادئ حسن الجوار وعدم التدخل في الشؤون الداخلية للدول، انطلاقا من قاعدة ذهبية مفادها أن أمن دول المجلس واستقرارها وازدهارها كل لا يتجزأ. ولا يفوتنا في هذه المناسبة أن نشيد بما أنجز في مسارات التعاون المشترك، وخصوصا ما يتصل بالمواطنة الخليجية والوحدة الاقتصادية، متطلعين إلى استكمال مشروع الاتحاد الجمركي والسوق الخليجية المشتركة وتوسيع شراكاتنا في مجالات الأمن الغذائي والمائي والاقتصاد الرقمي والطاقة المتجددة وغيرها من القطاعات الحيوية. أصحاب الجلالة والسمو، في ظل ما تشهده منطقتنا من تطورات متلاحقة تتأكد أهمية مواصلة سعينا المشترك بروح من العزم والحكمة والانفتاح لمعالجة القضايا الإقليمية وفي مقدمتها القضية الفلسطينية، اعتماداً على الحوار والخيارات السياسية والدبلوماسية التي تعزز الاستقرار وتفتح آفاقاً راسخة لأمن المنطقة وتنميتها المستدامة. ونؤكد أهمية استكمال تنفيذ خطة السلام في غزة لما تمثله من خطوة إيجابية نحو وقف التصعيد وتهيئة الأجواء لتسريع مسار إحلال السلام العادل والمستدام، وبما يضمن إقامة الدولة الفلسطينية المستقلة وعاصمتها القدس الشرقية وفق قرارات الشرعية الدولية ومبادرة السلام العربية. أما فيما يتعلق بأمن الخليج العربي والاستقرار الإقليمي، فإننا نرى ضرورة حماية الملاحة البحرية والتجارة الدولية من أي تهديد، والحفاظ على خلو المنطقة من أسلحة الدمار الشامل. استناداً إلى التوجهات الاستراتيجية لمجلس التعاون في مجال الأمن والدفاع الجماعي، وبالتعاون مع شبكة تحالفاته، سعياً لترسيخ قيم الأخوة الإنسانية والتعايش السلمي بما يعزز ثقافة السلام ويكرس الاحترام المتبادل بين الشعوب. وفي الختام، لنجعل من هذا المجلس مجدداً للعهد وسوقاً خليجية حرة عادلة وقوة ناعمة قادرة على حماية هويتنا ووحدة مجتمعاتنا، ومستقبل تبنى فيه التنمية على العلم والإبداع والكرامة، سائلين المولى عز وجل أن يوفقنا جميعاً لما فيه خير رفعة دولنا ومنفعة شعوبنا وسط عالم أكثر عدلاً واستقراراً ورخاء. شكراً لكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Afterwards, the chairman of the 45th session of the GCC Supreme Council, the Emir of Kuwait, His Highness Sheikh Mish'al Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, delivered a speech. The GCC Secretary General Jassim Mohammed Al-Bdawi also delivered a speech. Then the Secretary General announced the adjournment of the opening session of the 46th GCC Summit. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the chairman of the current session of the GCC Supreme Council, then presided over the closed working session of the summit, during which Their Majesties and Highnesses, the leaders of the GCC member states, discussed the issues and topics on the summit agenda. During the summit, His Highness the Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Mish'al Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, expressed gratitude to His Majesty the King and praised the Bahraini people for their warm hospitality. He congratulated Bahrain on assuming the GCC presidency and wished success in continuing the Council's path of integration and prosperity. His Highness also congratulated Bahrain on selection as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council for 2026-2027, highlighting Bahrain's international standing and capacity to contribute to international peace and security. Finally, His Highness expresses appreciation to the GCC leaders for their sincere cooperation during Kuwait's presidency of the previous session, noting their resolve to follow the founder's path. His Highness noted that their efforts strengthen cohesion and solidarity, guiding their people and nations towards prosperity and rooted in noble principles and steadfast values. The Secretary General of the GCC, Jassim Al-Bdawi, gave a speech where he congratulated His Majesty the King on presiding over the 46th session of the GCC Summit. Al-Bdawi expressed his optimism for the Council's future, emphasizing its potential as a beacon of unity. He congratulated the Kuwaiti Emir for his notable leadership during the 45th session of the GCC. He highlighted the GCC's successful regional collaboration, demonstrating political stability, economic growth and security through major achievements such as the GCC US Summit in Riyadh, the GCC ASEAN Bahrain summit and various trilateral meetings with international partners. He pointed out the value of military cooperation following the extraordinary session of the Joint Defense Council. He noted critical developments including the formation of the Gulf Civil Aviation Authority, amendments to tax regulations and the launch of initiatives like the Gulf Industrial Platform. He mentioned progress on the customs union and steps towards improving the Gulf Common Market. Al-Abdawi underscored the issuance of a guide to legislative drafting and the promotion of integrity through anti-corruption guidelines, the establishment of a Gulf market aimed at ensuring financial and administrative oversight while upholding along with the adoption of the security strategy for combating money laundering crimes for 2026-2030. He confirmed preparations for the Gulf Global Security Conference slated for 2027 in the UAE and tactical exercises to enhance regional security collaborations. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the chairman of the current session of the GCC Supreme Council, yesterday chaired the second working session of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council at Sakhir Palace. The session was attended by the summit's guest of honor, President of Italy's Council of Ministers, Giorgia Meloni.
أصحاب الجلالة والسمو دولة السيدة جورجيا ميلون رئيسة الوزراء في الجمهورية الإيطالية الصديقة، الحضور الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يطيب لنا بداية أن نرحب بحضور رئيسة وزراء الجمهورية الإيطالية الصديقة السيدة جورجيا ميلوني كضيفة شرف القمة، وبالوفد المرافق لها متمنين لها طيب الإقامة في مملكة البحرين والتوفيق والنجاح لكافة مساعيها التي نقدرها ونعتز بها. إن مشاركتكم الكريمة تجسد عمق ما يجمع دولنا وشعوبنا من علاقات راسخة قوامها الثقة والتفاهم والاحترام المتبادل، وتعبر في الوقت ذاته عن تطلعاتنا المشتركة إلى تعزيز تحالفاتنا الاستراتيجية البناءة. ومن هذا المنطلق نؤكد حرص دول مجلس التعاون على تطوير التعاون وتوسيع آفاق الشراكة مع الجمهورية الإيطالية الصديقة، وتوثيق الروابط الاقتصادية والاجتماعية والثقافية بين شعوبنا استناداً إلى قيم الحوار الحضاري والتقارب الإنساني. كما نعتز بما حققته الجمهورية الإيطالية من تقدم ملحوظ على مختلف الأصعدة، ونقدر دورها الرائد في دعم الأمن والسلم الدوليين ومساهمتها الفاعلة في حماية أمن الملاحة البحرية الدولية، وأننا نشارككم تطلعاتكم إلى إحلال السلام والاستقرار في منطقتنا والعالم، وهو هدف يتطلب تضافر الجهود الدولية لتمكين الشعوب من العيش في أمن وازدهار. وختاماً نرحب بكم مجدداً متطلعين إلى أن يسفر اجتماعنا هذا عن نتائج مثمرة تعزز علاقات الصداقة وتثري مجالات التعاون بين دول مجلس التعاون وبلدكم الصديق. تفضلوا بإلقاء خطابكم الكريم، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
For your Majesties, Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, dear friends, it is a great honor for me to be here with you all today, and I deeply thank once again His Majesty King Hamad for this historic opportunity that the Gulf Cooperation Council is offering to Italy. Italy is a nation with an ancient heart, with a forward-looking attitude, capable of captivating the world with its identity and trying to play a leading role on the European and international stage. It is a story lost in the midst of time. The Limes Arabicus, the border between the Roman Empire and the Arabian Peninsula, was not a rigid separation, but a space for transit, communication, and trade, crossed by that spice route that united ancient Rome and India after crossing the Mediterranean. And Italy could never conceive of itself without the Mediterranean, the very heart of the world's political, cultural, and commercial exchanges for millennia, and still today the shortest route of communication between the planet's two great maritime spaces, the Atlantic Ocean and the Indo-Pacific. I'm convinced that considering both the Mediterranean and the Gulf as regional seas, alien to the great challenges, is reductive. I see them instead as spaces that project their action far beyond their physical and natural boundaries. Spaces that together can be protagonists of major intercontinental interconnections. This vision spurs us to behave as natural partners. And I am convinced we can be an engine of cooperation, and by uniting the West and the East, Europe and Asia, we can contribute to helping overcome divisions. If you like the idea, I would like to work with you on a GCC-Med summit that obviously I am ready to host in Italy, a nation historically and geographically at the core of these spaces, to create this new and ambitious format of dialogue between Gulf and Mediterranean nations. A format that does not mean to compete with other international initiatives or fora, and does not work as an alternative to them, but one that knows how to work on complementarities, synergies, and mutual strengths. Our goal must be building a common operational platform focusing on the challenges in which we can make a difference together. And working together is essential for building shared paths to avert fundamentalist proselytism in Europe, enhance fruitful forms of dialogue and discussion between different identities, and concretely support integration paths. For cohabitation is possible, and I reiterate it here, in a nation that has been pioneer of interfaith dialogue and respect for other, thanks to King Hamad. I wish to recall and share with you an enlightened passage from the Kingdoms of Bahrain's declaration. We commit to working for a world where people of sincere belief join together to reject that which divides us and concentrate instead on celebrating and expanding on what which unites us. And obviously, dialogue must not aim at homologation or at cancelling differences. Far from it. Dialogue must instead help get to know each other, to fully respect each other. Your Majesties, Royal Highnesses, dear friends, in working on this meeting, I discovered one of the most fascinating symbols of this land, the Shajaratu El Hayatun, the tree of life, the magnificent acacia tree that has lived and thrived in the Bahraini desert for 100 years. It is a symbol of the impossible that becomes possible, like cooperation between us, like friendship between us, which some would like to make impossible, but which instead can richly flourish for a long time ahead. This is my personal wish, and this is also the reason why I'm so proud to be here. Shukran. Thank you very much.
أشكر دولة رئيسة الوزراء الإيطالية على هذه الكلمة الوافية مقدراً ما تضمنته من مشاعر طيبة وآراء حكيمة متطلعين إلى علاقات أوثق بين مجلس التعاون وإيطاليا الصديقة.
The GCC Secretary General Jassim Mohammed Libdawi also delivered a speech. His Majesty the King then chaired the closed working session in the presence of Their Majesties and Highnesses the GCC leaders and their representatives, and the President of Italy's Council of Ministers, the summit's guest. The session reviewed ways to support and develop the historical friendship and close strategic partnership between the GCC and Italy, as well as opportunities to enhance cooperation and joint action in various fields to achieve mutual interests and benefits for both sides. During the second working session of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council, the GCC Secretary General emphasized that the Gulf-Italian relations were established, rooted in decades of constructive cooperation and based on mutual trust, shared respect and common interest. He said that the summit is the greatest proof of the GCC's strong will to develop their relations with Italy through cooperation with the EU and direct dialogue between the GCC and Italy. Al-Abdawi added that relations between the GCC and Italy have witnessed clear developments in all areas, reflecting growing consultation on regional and international issues and in supporting efforts aimed at enhancing security and stability and combating terrorism. He said that the GCC stands on the threshold of a new phase of this partnership through discussing and working to sign a memorandum of understanding between the two sides on the mechanisms of consultations between the two sides. Al-Abdawi affirmed that the GCC and Italy are working to complete the final steps to adopt the joint action plan for the 2026-2030 period in areas of common interest. He said that the economic relations between the GCC and Italy are an advanced model of effective partnership and are witnessing continuous growth that reflects the strength of cooperation and the growing common interest. Al-Abdawi said that the volume of trade exchange between the two sides reached more than $35 billion in 2024. Their Majesties and Highnesses, the leaders of the GCC member states, yesterday concluded the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council, held under the chairmanship of His Majesty King Mohammed bin Isa Al Khalifa, the chairman of the current session of the Supreme Council, and in the presence of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa at Sakhir Palace. At the beginning of the closing session, Secretary General of the GCC, Jassim Mohammed Al-Abdawi, read the Sakhir Declaration.
يسعدنا في ختام الدورة 46 للمجلس الأعلى لمجلس التعاون أن نتقدم إليكم بخالص الشكر والامتنان على تلبية الدعوة ومشاركتكم القيمة في أعمالها ومناقشاتها. كما أسعدنا حضور دولة رئيسة الوزراء في الجمهورية الإيطالية الصديقة. كما يطيب لنا أن نعرب عن بالغ الاعتزاز باستضافة هذه الدورة في مملكة البحرين، مثمنين ما أسفرت عنه من نتائج طيبة نأمل أن تسهم في تطوير مسيرة العمل الخليجي المشترك وإثراء مجالات التعاون والتكامل تحقيقاً لأهدافها المباركة. كما نتوجه بخالص الشكر إلى معالي الأمين العام وفرق العمل في الأمانة العامة على ما بذلوه من جهود مقدرة أظهرت أفضل درجات الإعداد والتنظيم. وفي الختام نسأل الله العلي القدير أن يديم على دولنا نعمة الأمن والاستقرار ويبارك في مسيرتنا الخيرة نحو مزيد من النماء والرخاء، وأن يوفقنا إلى ما فيه خير دولنا وشعوبنا، إنه سميع مجيب الدعاء. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. مشكورين أخوان، شرفتوا بلدكم وأنستونا الله طول.
His Majesty then announced the conclusion of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council. His Majesty the King bid farewell to their Majesties and Highnesses, the leaders of the GCC states and their representatives. His Majesty expressed his gratitude for their attendance and participation in the summit, their fruitful cooperation in ensuring its success, and their keenness to support this positive endeavour and boost the Gulf system to achieve further accomplishments and gains for the benefit of the brotherly nations and people. For their part, the GCC leaders and their representatives expressed their thanks and appreciation to His Majesty the King for the generous hospitality and warm welcome. They commended His Majesty's wisdom in managing the Gulf Summit sessions, which contributed to its success, and his pioneering role in enhancing joint Gulf action. The final communique of the 46th GCC Supreme Council Summit in Al Sakhir, Bahrain, the Sakhir Declaration, was issued. It affirmed the continuation of coordination and integration in political, security, economic and social fields towards achieving the desired unity, ensuring shared interests and enhancing regional security, peace and prosperity. The session highlighted GCC's achievements in comprehensive defense and security frameworks, wise diplomatic stances and sustainable development projects, reflecting political cohesion and unified stances on various regional and international issues. The leaders welcomed the outcomes of the Sharm el-Sheikh Peace Summit, supporting regional and international efforts to end the Gaza conflict, facilitating humanitarian aid, reconstruction and establishing a sovereign Palestinian state on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital, according to the two-state solution and international legitimacy. Economic integration remains a priority, with emphasis on completing the Gulf Common Market and Customs Union, enhancing trade, tourism, investment, especially in strategic sectors like infrastructure, transport, energy, telecommunications, water and food security. Digital infrastructure, e-commerce and shared systems for digital payment and cloud services are being advanced to promote full economic citizenship and sustainable development. The summit stressed continuing economic diversification and innovation-based sustainable economy to ensure long-term prosperity. It also focused on expanding cooperation in technology, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity and digital transformation, stressing knowledge integration, combating cybercrimes, youth and women's active participation, and the role of think tanks in sustainable policy developments. Environmental protection and climate change mitigation through carbon emission reduction, clean and renewable energy projects, and preservation of natural and marine resources align with GCC global initiatives aiming for net zero and sustainable development goals. In foreign relations, the GCC aims to strengthen political, security and economic partnerships with friendly countries, international organizations and economic blocs, cooperate against extremism, terrorism, hate speech, cross-border crimes, and enhance joint naval security efforts to protect energy security, maritime navigation and international trade. The GCC also calls to make the Middle East free of nuclear and weapons of mass destruction, preventing arms races for regional stability. The leaders expressed full support to Bahrain representing the Arab group with a non-permanent seat at the UN Security Council for the coming 2 years, confident in Bahrain's role in promoting international peace, dialogue, tolerance, coexistence and humanitarian fraternity. Furthermore, the summit welcomed Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's participation, agreed on a comprehensive strategic partnership plan to deepen long-standing friendly relations, reflecting the GCC's openness to broad partnerships. Finally, the GCC leaders called for enhancing institutional cooperation mechanisms to widen fraternal solidarity and strategic integration for sustainable security and prosperity within a stable, safe region, contributing to building a more just and prosperous world, reaffirming their unwavering commitment to these principles for a brighter GCC future. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa yesterday hosted a banquet in honor of Their Majesties and Highnesses the GCC leaders and their representatives and the President of Italy's Council of Ministers, Giorgia Meloni, the guest of honor at the summit. The banquet was attended by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa at Sakhir Palace on the occasion of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received a cable of congratulations from His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa on the success of the 46th session of the Supreme Council of the GCC Bahrain Summit, chaired by His Majesty the King and hosted by Bahrain. His Royal Highness affirmed that the constructive results and fruitful outcomes of the Bahrain Summit are the result of His Majesty's wise leadership and ambitious vision, and embody His Majesty's keenness to strengthen cooperation between the GCC countries to meet the aspirations of the people of the GCC countries. His Royal Highness added that the President of Italy's Council of Ministers, Giorgia Meloni, as a guest of honor, confirmed the high diplomatic standing of Bahrain and cemented the close historical ties of friendship between the GCC and Italy, and the keenness of His Majesty the King to enhance cooperation and partnership. In the cable, His Royal Highness also praised His Majesty the King's comprehensive speech during the opening session, which highlighted the keenness to continue the long-standing tradition of joint Gulf action, which draws its strength from the bonds of fraternity and unity, of prosperity and destiny, and His Majesty's affirmation of the Council's correct approach towards the necessities of integration and unifications in line with its strategic weight, and demonstrating its status as an effective and influential force in regional and international politics. His Royal Highness prayed to Allah the Almighty to grant His Majesty the King abundant health and happiness. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received a cable of congratulations from Her Royal Highness the wife of His Majesty the King and President of the Supreme Council for Women, Princess Sabika bint Ibrahim Al Khalifa, on the success of the 46th GCC Summit, which was hosted in Bahrain. Her Royal Highness praised the achievements of the summit, which clearly reflects His Majesty the King's constant keenness to consolidate the approach of partnership and integration among the GCC countries, strengthen Gulf unity, and affirm Bahrain's leading role in promoting comprehensive development, consolidating security and stability, and serving common strategic issues in a manner that meets the aspirations of the present and future of the Gulf states and people. Her Royal Highness prayed to Allah the Almighty to grant His Majesty good health and long life, and perpetuate the blessing of security and prosperity in Bahrain and the GCC. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received a cable of congratulations from the personal representative of His Majesty the King, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad Al Khalifa, on the successful conclusion of the 46th GCC Summit hosted by the Kingdom of Bahrain. Earlier in the day, the Emir of Kuwait, His Highness Sheikh Mish'al Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah, arrived in Bahrain to participate in the 46th GCC Summit and was received by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa. His Highness was also received by the personal representative of His Majesty the King, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and several senior officials. Also, His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq of Oman was received by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa upon arrival in Bahrain to participate in the 46th GCC summit hosted by Bahrain. His Majesty was also received by the personal representative of His Majesty the King, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Minister of the Prime Minister's Court, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and several senior officials. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa and the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, co-chaired the fourth meeting of the Bahraini Saudi Coordination Council held in Bahrain. The meeting was convened pursuant to the directives of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, in affirmation of the deep-rooted historical ties and shared aspirations that unite Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. His Royal Highness commenced the meeting by extending a warm welcome to His Royal Highness the Saudi Crown Prince and Prime Minister. His Royal Highness highlighted the depth of the long-standing Bahraini-Saudi relations, which continues to strengthen under the unwavering support of His Majesty the King and the custodian of the two holy mosques. His Royal Highness noted that the strong ties between the two kingdoms have fostered partnerships that continue to drive growth and deliver benefits to both nations and their people. His Royal Highness commended the pivotal role played by His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman in supporting joint initiatives and projects endorsed by the Council that meet the far-reaching aspirations of both countries. For his part, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman expresses pleasure at visiting Bahrain and meeting with His Majesty the King and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister. His Royal Highness underscored the custodian of the two holy mosques' commitment to strengthening and expanding cooperation between the two countries and to advancing bilateral relations across all fields. His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman also conveyed his gratitude and appreciation to His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad for the warm welcome and the excellent organization of the council meeting. Several senior officials, along with the heads of the council's subcommittees, were also present. The Bahrain Saudi Coordination Council is a high-level strategic framework that reflects the deep historical and fraternal ties between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. More in this report.
Bahraini-Saudi relations are a testament to cohesion and integration and a broad framework for renewed cooperation within a unified vision that strengthens security, development, and economic integration. This vision forms the basis from which the Bahraini-Saudi Coordination Council leads the paths of joint action. The two kingdoms are advancing towards an advanced stage of institutional cooperation with the support of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia. The Council works to coordinate initiatives and organize joint projects according to a clear methodology. In this context, the third meeting of the Bahraini-Saudi Coordination Council witnessed an expansion in the path of joint cooperation through the signing of a number of agreements and MOUs. These agreements covered the fields of energy, economy, finance, financial markets, and legal aspects, in addition to culture, education, administrative development, and health, as well as the television, radio, and news sector. This reflects the comprehensiveness of the institutional work and the breadth of the partnerships between the two sides. The 5 committees in the fields of politics, security, trade, culture, and investment continue to unify efforts and formulate joint initiatives, ensuring that agreements and projects are translated into actionable programs that enhance integration between the two countries. On the political front, positions are aligned on regional and international issues, while the Security Committee contributes to strengthening stability by linking operations rooms and facilitating border crossing and customs procedures. The Economic Front continues its role through the Trade, Industry, Investment, and Infrastructure Committees, aiming to increase the volume of trade exchange, which reached $12.9 billion by the end of 2024, and to support joint investment projects, including the establishment of the Saudi Bahraini Investment Company in November 2022. In development projects, the Saudi Fund for Development continues to implement and finance projects in Bahrain worth 10.998 billion Saudi riyals, encompassing education, health, housing, and energy. Among the most prominent projects is the King Abdullah bin Abdulaziz Medical City. In terms of institutional cooperation, the signing of MOUs between the Labour Fund Tamkeen and the Saudi company Takamul Holding contributes to the exchange of knowledge, expertise in the labour market, within the framework of existing partnerships under the umbrella of the Coordination Council. With this approach, the two kingdoms are moving towards expanding areas of bilateral cooperation within a shared vision that believes in deep partnership, sustainable development, and the well-being of the two brotherly peoples. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa had received earlier in the day by His Royal Highness the Saudi Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud upon His Royal Highness's arrival in Bahrain to participate in the 46th GCC summit hosted by Bahrain. The Minister of the Prime Minister's Court, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Minister of Finance and National Economy Sheikh Salman bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, and several senior officials were also in attendance.
His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa met with the President of Italy's Council of Ministers, Giorgia Meloni. His Royal Highness highlighted the ongoing advancement of bilateral relations, which continues to be driven by strategic partnerships across various fields under the support of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. His Royal Highness affirmed the Kingdom's commitment to building on this partnership to create quality opportunities that benefit both countries and their people. His Royal Highness also recognized the role played by Italy in consolidating global peace and regional security. In this regard, His Royal Highness highlighted the Kingdom's efforts under the leadership of His Majesty the King to promote tolerance, coexistence and human fraternity among nations and people.
على الشرف سلام جمهورية إيطاليا وسلام مملكة البحرين. سلام قف. على الشرف كتفان لا.
His Royal Highness Meloni then witnessed the signing of the following. A partnership agreement between the Arab shipbuilding and repair yard company Esri and the Italian company Fincantieri in the field of shipbuilding and marine engineering. The agreement was signed by Esri CEO Dr. Ahmed Al-Ibri and by the General Manager of the Naval Vessels Division of Fincantieri, Iguinio Santagata. A partnership agreement between Esri and the Italian company Robos to establish an integrated smart factory utilizing additive manufacturing technology. The agreement was signed by Esri CEO Dr. Ahmed Al-Ibri and Robos CEO Alicio Loroso. An official reception ceremony was also held for the Italian Prime Minister, during which the national anthems of Bahrain and Italy were played. His Majesty the King's representative for humanitarian work and youth affairs, His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Minister of the Prime Minister's Court, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Minister of Finance and National Economy Sheikh Salman bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, and several senior officials also attended the meeting. The National Guard Commander, His Highness General Sheikh Mohammed bin Isa Al Khalifa, arrived in Pakistan, where he was met with Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff Field Marshal Sayyid Asim Munir at the General Headquarters in Rawalpindi. Field Marshal Munir said that the visit reflects ongoing efforts to strengthen relations between Bahrain and Pakistan, particularly in defense areas. His Highness commended the progress of military cooperation and exchange between the two sides. He also highlighted Pakistan's contribution through its army to supporting regional and international security and stability. The meeting also discussed matters of common interest and means to further enhance cooperation between Bahrain and Pakistan, particularly in military affairs. The UAE's Vice President, Deputy Prime Minister His Highness Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan arrived earlier today to participate in the 46th Gulf Cooperation Council Summit hosted by the Kingdom. On arrival, His Highness Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed was received by the personal representative of His Majesty the King, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad Al Khalifa, along with a number of senior princes, ministers, officials and dignitaries. Qatar's Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman bin Jassim Al Thani also arrived in the kingdom to participate in the 46th Gulf Cooperation Council Summit. Upon arrival, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman was received by the personal representative of His Majesty the King, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad Al Khalifa, along with a number of senior princes, ministers, officials and dignitaries. Bahrain Defense Force Commander-in-Chief Field Marshal Sheikh Khalifa bin Ahmed Al Khalifa received Pakistan's Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Raja Rabnawaz, Minister of Defense Affairs Lieutenant General Abdullah bin Hassan Naimi, Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Diab bin Sagr Naimi, and Advisor for Financial and Technical Affairs at the BDF General Command Sheikh Mohammed bin Khalifa Al Khalifa were present. During the meeting, the Commander-in-Chief highlighted the strong Bahrain-Pakistan relations and advanced cooperation between the two countries, especially in the military and defense cooperation fields. Southern Governor His Highness Sheikh Khalifa bin Ali Al Khalifa paid an inspection visit to the Al-Bar Services Center as part of his commitment to field communication follow-up on the services provided to citizens, monitoring advanced preparations and ensuring full readiness for the 2025-2026 Al-Bar season. His Highness the Governor praised the wise directives of His Majesty the King and the support of the government headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister through coordination and joint cooperation with various competent authorities on the occasion of the start of this year's Al-Bar season. Al-Bar season comes within the support and directives of His Majesty the King's representative for humanitarian work and youth affairs, His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, to provide all the necessary services for its organization. During the visit, His Highness the Governor inspected the facilities accompanying the Desert Services Center, followed up on the services provided to campers through a visual presentation, and reviewed the security efforts and joint coordination between various departments to ensure readiness and effective security presence during the season. At the conclusion of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council chaired by His Majesty the King with the participation of GCC leaders, the Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdulatif Al-Zayani and the GCC Secretary General Jassim Badawi held a press conference attended by a number of journalists and media representatives from local Gulf, Arab and international media outlets. The Minister expressed his gratitude for the tireless efforts of the GCC leaders to strengthen joint Gulf action and added that the summit resulted in constructive decisions and a firm commitment to maintaining the GCC's cohesion. The Minister noted that the summit reflected a deep awareness of contemporary events and their repercussions on regional and global security and stability. He noted that the Sakhir Declaration of the Bahrain Summit 2025 conveyed the GCC's unwavering commitment to strengthening the deep-rooted ties and affirmed its dedication to preserving security and stability, economic integration, empowering youth and women. The Minister said that the Supreme Council affirmed its commitment to the GCC's cohesion and the pursuit of greater coordination, integration and interdependence in all fields. He noted that the GCC leaders also affirmed their unified stance in confronting any threats to any member states. The Minister added that they emphasized the importance of strengthening partnership with allied nations among the GCC and with regional and international countries and organizations. He added that the leaders stressed the necessity of continuing negotiations to conclude free trade agreements with various countries and international economic entities. The Minister said that the Supreme Council also welcomed the participation of the President of Italy's Council of Ministers as a guest of honor. He noted the discussions addressed issues of common interest, foremost among them the Palestinian cause and the war in Gaza, as well as ways to strengthen existing cooperation between the two sides within the framework of the Joint Action Plan for the period 2026-2030. The Minister added that the Supreme Council praised the GCC's efforts during the war on Gaza, their continuous communication with friendly nations to end the war, secure the release of hostages and detainees, facilitate the delivery of humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. The Supreme Council also welcomed the outcomes of an international conference for the peaceful settlement of the question of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution, and the outcomes of the Sharm el-Sheikh Peace Summit and the agreement reached regarding Gaza. Regarding the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, the Supreme Council praised the diplomatic efforts exerted to reach a political solution, facilitating the exchange of prisoners, reuniting children with their families, and providing humanitarian relief assistance. He said that the Supreme Council welcomed Saudi Arabia's presidency of the 47th session. Al-Badawi expressed his appreciation to His Majesty the King for hosting the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council, noting that the GCC leaders were briefed on numerous topics related to joint Gulf action and directed the adoption of several resolutions concerning political, economic, security, military, and legislative matters. These resolutions aim to serve the GCC's people, achieving their development and well-being and strengthening integration among the GCC. He also pointed out that the meeting of the GCC leaders with Maloney aims to strengthen friendly relations with Italy and with the Mediterranean countries and the EU. During her appearance on a special program, one of the prominent Arab media voices, Ms. Bari Alamuddin, emphasized the role of Bahrain in advancing the GCC system, particularly in strengthening political, media and diplomatic coordination between GCC countries. She also praised the messages that emerged from the Bahrain summit at the Gulf and regional levels.
I think Bahrain always enjoyed friendship with all the GCC countries, and I think the monarch specifically, His Majesty, enjoys very good friendship with all the leaders of the Arab, the GCC countries. So it is only fit and purposeful that these meetings should be held here. I think also it's the way Bahrain looks at things. It's this, there is a feeling of peace and tranquility, and there is no confrontation. It's the method that Bahrain has always dealt with its issues. It is this feeling of giving, and you're very well received when you are in Bahrain. I mean, I'm a frequent visitor to Bahrain. Believe me, when I arrive here, I always feel extremely peaceful, extremely well received, and it's, I think, all these things together. Also, you have leaders who understand that how important this period is for the GCC countries, also for the world. What happened, and Qatar was attacked by Iran. Qatar was attacked by Israel. Qatar is a member of the GCC. I think every country in the GCC felt this and wanted to tell the world that we are one. I think that there is improved cooperation in the fields, not only of technology and economy, etc., but also in the sector of defense. This is extremely important now. But what touched me very, very much was the warmth between the leaders, and the agreement when the head of the GCC read all the results of the GCC. I felt very proud that they were able to reach such agreement on wide variety of things. But I know that the young people of the Gulf want things quicker, want things faster. We all do. It's the nature of being young and being ambitious. And I'm happy to see things are moving. I remember attending these conferences, and it used to take sometimes more years to reach to, now it's going faster and faster and faster. And this must be very good for the populations of these countries and for the Arab world at large.
The full interview will be aired after the news. Bahrain Post announced the issuance of a set of commemorative stamps marking the convening of the 46th Gulf Cooperation Council Summit hosted by the Kingdom of Bahrain. The set features designs that reflect the common path of the Gulf states and illustrate the links and cooperation among the people of the Council. The designs also reflect future aspirations for a unified and promising Gulf renaissance in the vital region of the world. The issuance of these stamps comes as part of Bahrain's Post's commitment to documenting key national and regional events and to support the cultural role of stamps as a visual record that preserve important occasions for future generations.